We're going to talk to you today a little bit about how internet tracking can really help both MLSs and brokers really take credit for the work that they do. And Josh and his team have been doing a lot of neat things, so we want to share that. And I'm just going to kind of open us up a little bit, and then we're going to talk about the API first. But actually, let's talk about the API, then we'll jump to that. So Josh is from Valley MLS in Huntsville, Alabama. You're about 4,200 members?
Yeah.
And they're one of the first that have gone native on the API. So why don't you talk to us about why did your group decide to do that? How did you do it? And how's it working so far?
Well, it was really driven by our brokers asking for more data to their vendors and opening up to have more options for them. Our team started in May of 2020, communicating with vendors, to get them into the switchover with a hopeful deadline actually by the end of the year. And a lot of folks were finished because they were excited about it. And we didn't have a hard cutoff in December. It was just our hope, but we actually fully converted in June of this year. And I'd be remiss if I didn't give credit to Melissa and Rhonda from our team at Valley MLS Wave guys. They're in the audience and did a fantastic job at communicating with our vendors and that, getting them all the information they needed to make it a smooth transition. So we turned it off back in June. The Reds.
So how difficult was it to get people to come with you on that, to get the vendors and brokers to understand why that's a good path?
I think they were excited in our market. So, and the vendors we were working with, it was mainly just reminding them that it was happening.
So anybody that's in the market, they should all be doing the same thing, right? That's out here. All right. So again, we're going to talk about the marketing value, for the simplest definition, right, that both MLSs and brokerages bring to their agents and ultimately to their clients. And there's so many things that MLSs do. Let's just talk about them for a second. And if you think about just the MLS system alone, right, in some markets it's thousands, in some markets it's millions of emails that go out every single month promoting properties, right? And that generates business for everyone in the marketplace. Then you add in things like if you've got, they've got valleymls.com, which we're going to talk about, very strong. If you've got programs like HomeSnap or Broker Portal, that's another place, right? There's just a lot of different things in the public records system. We have a tendency, brokers and agents, and even MLSs sometimes have a tendency to think of ourselves as providers of terrific technologies, but not necessarily as marketing partners, right? And the truth is, it's probably the most profitable marketing partner an agent gets. We just don't position ourselves that way. So these guys are starting to change that. So, what was it that kind of inspired you to think that maybe the idea of, being a business generation partner, what got you there? Like, why did you think that would make sense for your customers?
So our public search site is 21 years old. It started like the end of 1999, and so it was a vision of our board to have that from the beginning. Okay. When those were first coming around. But then when we really started ramping up business generation as an ideal, it was probably about 4 years ago when we did a broker survey to ask how we could better partner. And then about 2 years ago, we really kind of delved into asking them what that would look like. And like you said, just switching the communications that we had with our brokers and agents about that the MLS is not just the utility, that we are there to help them generate business, and we meant it. And so we were really putting our resources, our time, our talent, our money into that, and was supported by not only our board and leadership, but by our brokers as well.
Gotcha. And so when you started to think about that, what did you put in those components, or what are the things that help you demonstrate that you can demonstrate and create business opportunities?
So we provide our brokers an email, and we put it out on our social, and we send it to all of our subscribers once a month, but basically showing them the amount of leads we generate.
Okay.
And
gotcha.
So I think you've got an example of that, but it's generating like about 1 million views and about 1,000 leads a week now.
Wow.
And so, but what we're doing is rolling up all of what's happening in the MLS, what's happening in IDX, and what's happening in the portal, so that we as valleymls.com can make sure that agents know that the derivative of those leads is coming from their MLS, and taking credit for that, and making sure that they're communicating that to agents, and agents understand that we are that business generation partner.
So how big a priority is this for you?
It is number one on our strategic plan.
Wow.
So
Awesome.
our board just went through a strategic planning process, and for the first time named Valley MLS and business generation as our number one priority.
Wow.
And also kind of a subset of that was about making brokers more profitable, which I think kudos to our leadership team and our board for wanting to accept that, but for a 4,000 member MLS to say our priority is, one, let's help our brokers make more money by being a business generation partner, was a huge shift. And so there's a lot of excitement around it because there's something that they can get behind, and then they're seeing direct results already. And that was we approved the plan in June, and we're already seeing the results now.
And you just did something with brokers a few days ago, right?
Yeah,
we had rolled it out to them.
Yeah, we had you there. Yeah, so we sold it to our brokers, which I think was something that we had not done before. We had always kind of said, hey, we've got a plan on how we're going to help you, and here's the things we're doing, or here's the rules updates, or here's the policy updates. And then what we did differently this time was we positioned the tools and resources we were giving them in our broker forum, and made the whole thing about our plan, and not just about our plan, because sometimes it seems insular when you say, listen to how great our strategic plan is, or listen to our business plan, for the MLS, and it seems like it's separate from their brokerage. Instead, we said, hey, here's what we're doing, and here's why we're doing it, and how it helps your business. And the message was received a lot better with that, because now they're talking the language versus us having to constantly be the ones talking it back.
That makes a lot of sense. And we've all had the leveling the playing field conversation in our markets, right? How many of you have ever had to deal with that question, right? It was around for a long, long time. But what I think is exciting is we're seeing brokers understand the power. I mean, if they said to you, please help us with this, the market's kind of changed. I think brokers understand it's so hard to compete online. And if we do this together, we have a better shot of really creating significant ideas and opportunities for our agents.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, finding ways not only for the listing agent to get the leads back because it's their listing, their lead, but also giving all of our agents a personalized website for free that they can capture as a buyer's agent all those leads, similar to what you could do with HomeSnap, which we're also partnered with them to allow buyer's agents to capture as well, which in the low inventory market, that's always a question we're getting,
Yeah.
So
let's take a look at some of the things you've been using. I don't know, can you see these? Oh yeah, you can see them down there, Josh. Right? Just explain how these are reports that you use on a regular basis, right? And this one I think is the entire market for just 1 week.
Yeah, this is a week, so it was actually one of the lowest weeks we picked, just to show you. But this is what the view rate is, and we feel like it's just super easy to communicate with that, and that we're able to show them that this is why we're a business generation partner, and literally we can fact check it against the actual numbers versus just putting it out there to say, hey, we're doing all these great things for you. Because if you just say that, I mean, I've had colleagues say there's no way that this is happening, but when you track it, and you've got that ability within the system and all the ways that the system is being used by other vendors to then make the MLS the point of that, you can prove the value of the MLS as a marketing partner.
Exactly. Cool. Okay. Now
and that's just the breakdown, of where it's actually coming from. But you can see directly from the MLS and portals, are right there neck and neck. And we've seen the MLS data oftentimes trump that. Like I said, you're seeing last week's results, which were lower because the market's cooling a little bit, not as much as what we normally see at this time of year. But these are the real-time numbers, listings, and views shared.
And these numbers, just to brag on MLSs for a minute, if you look at I think you can probably read that from the distance, but it says IDX generated 160 leads, Portals 162, and the MLS 519. So I think most times when you talk to a broker or an agent and say, where are a lot of my leads coming from, they probably wouldn't think that was the mix, right?
Right.
So if you can drive home the point that the MLS is really doing something here, this is significant. that there's opportunity. And not to say that all of them aren't great, right? Collectively, the agents are getting a lot of activity here. But I think it's pretty cool that MLSs are delivering more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love is if you look at listings shared. So we were just talking about this this morning, with some of the folks from Constellation One. And this is research we did actually years ago that proved this, that when people go to an MLS website, they tend to be more serious. They tend to be sort of further down the sales funnel, right? They tend to be actually shopping. So if you look at the number of listings shared, 169,000 times on social media in the MLS versus 78 times on the portal and 79 in IDX. I think these numbers really show the MLSs are doing some pretty darn good work here. It's just taking credit for it.
Yeah, and those people who are there are more qualified. I think that kind of leads us to the next thing about one of the hurdles we've had to overcome is making sure that our agents are recognizing where the lead is coming from.
Right.
And is it a qualified lead? And so I think that goes back in a standards conference, how we can maybe standardize some of that data so that it is easier for agents to figure that out, or for a brokerage to create a feed into their back office to capture where it's coming from versus me having to send them an email that they may or may not read.
Yeah, and there was, in the broker forum you were talking about, one woman said, I love the fact that the MLS is helping me do this, but she said, I'll get a call and someone will say, I want to look at, 123 Main Street, and they're like, that's great. They have no idea where it came from, right? So there's all these different sources, but they want to feel like they're connected to the consumer and figure out and they don't know how to do that yet. So if there was a way to, every time you feed a lead, it would actually say this came from IDX site 123 or valleyMLS.com or whatever. It was kind of an interesting thought.
And what is a lead? I think as well, because that's a conversation we've had with our 2 or 3 past presidents got together, and we're kind of having that discussion about what's the difference between like an inquiry, a lead, a question, that they're getting, and how do we define that? So again, standardization of defining what is a lead, I think would help as well to figure out. And I know there's a work group working on that we had a conversation with, and so hopefully from that we can get some of that so that it's easier to communicate that to brokers and agents.
Absolutely. Now this number is huge. Go ahead, brag about that one. I like that number.
Yeah, we're really excited about this one. And so you can see, over 50,000 leads this year directly from the MLS, which we're really proud of. This is since January 1 of 2021. All of 2020, we generated 15,000 leads. And so you can see our priority shifted and our focus went there, and it's paying off for our agents and our brokers.
So just for perspective, there's 50,000 free leads. You have 4,200 agents.
4,200 agents, yeah.
So that's more than 10 free leads a year. I'm sure some people are getting a lot more than that.
Right.
That's pretty significant, though. Even 10 is pretty darn good, or 12, right?
Yeah, we're really proud of that, and we told the brokers this. We showed them this slide last week, and there were also some questions, from that audience about, what does this actually mean, and that which spurred further conversation about what's a lead, and did I realize I was getting it?
Right. Okay. Here's another one. This is interesting too.
Yeah. So again, saved listings just from our public search site. There, 26,000, which we're really proud of as well. And you can see our partners at HomeSnap, and then within our collaboration center. When you combine, all of those together, like we showed earlier, it's outpacing what the typical agent, I think, would stereotype where their leads are coming from or where they're getting business from. And so telling that story has been crucial for us. Yeah,
so Paragon Collaboration Center, that's probably where the emails are coming from, right? They're going out to consumers, so that's number one.
Right.
I think if you ask most brokers, they'd never say that the Paragon would be the place that their number one source for people that are getting serious and saving listings would come from.
Right, and our branding has been crucial to that by keeping the public search site as a part of the brand and keeping it in front of them that consumers are then driven back to that as well.
Awesome. Okay.
And then this is what the seller's report looks like. Of course, you've probably all seen this before, but this goes directly to the sellers with the traffic that they're receiving on their property.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So this is one way to display it, right? And these can be automated and they're pretty neat. But there that data could be sent to a broker, right? They could figure out in fact, I've seen some of them do that. They create their own reports with their own branding. It's pretty powerful, right?
Yeah, that's the whole idea of why we're doing this, is like, let's give it back to the broker. Let's make them the star of this and make us their partner in it.
Gotcha. So for people that are in the audience that are thinking about this, and again, this is for brokers and MLSs. We're kind of using an MLS example, but the same thing applies. And if you're a broker in any market that's got an MLS that's doing this, right, you can take advantage of it. But what advice would you give to the people that are saying, wow, it's kind of interesting to reposition my MLS as a business generation partner for my brokers? What's your advice for them?
For us, it wasn't about what we wanted. It was about listening to what our brokers were asking for. And
Awesome.
I think that's been the key, is truly listening through surveys, through focus groups, through interviews, through office visits, and finding out where their pain point was and figuring out how we can be the best partner in that, and then truly delivering on it. Like, not just saying, oh, we hear you that, lead gen is costing me way too much money and putting a strain on my bottom line, but like, as a collective, let's get together and figure out what we can do and put our resources toward it. That's been the magic. And our board bought into it, and our leadership has bought into it, our staff's bought into it. So, it's something that we, could easily move forward once we all kind of got on that train.
That's great. And you've got like lots of smart resources working specifically on Valley MLS too, right?
Yeah, our technology director, Tammy Owen, her resources were spread before, and again, we rerouted her resources all to Valley MLS on the public side, on business generation as the #1 priority, and it's been amazing. That transition just happened over the summer, and you can see the results are already there. So we meant it and did
awesome.
it. So.